So guys, back with my frenemy, Bryan Larson, another joint commentary, and this one is neither of us. This is footage that a fan of the channel sent in. This is Grant's Tomb, which apparently is a big thing on the East Coast. Never heard of it, never raced it. I'm a California boy, but look, there's snow on the side of the road. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, that looks really cold. I don't usually go out if it's cold. Even if it's like 60 degrees, I'm like, nah.
Yeah, that's too cold. That's full arms and legs.
Yeah.
So this is the 4.5s. I'll keep the guy's name anonymous, but he came out with two teammates. The plan was to, whoa, what's going on here?
Right away, first corner, nailed it.
So he started really hard, and it seems like he's getting a gap with this guy up the road, but then he took that corner so poorly, and now he's having to do like a big 800-watt surge just to catch the wheel. That was weird.
He surged pretty hard there. I mean, that's one way to get your heart rate right up at the gun, and it looks like you can see his hands coming into the top of the frame there. To me, that says he's trying to get low. He's trying to put his hands over the hoods. He's probably...
he's doing 460, 470, 480 watts. Like, this is a hard effort.
Okay, I'm gonna go out on the limb and put some free advice out there. 98% of the time, the first attack of a race never works.
It's true.
So,
but that being said, this guy sent me the video with his description. He said plan A was to get away in a break. So I don't know what's going on. He doesn't have a rear-facing cam. Maybe he's got a big gap.
Yeah, you never know without looking back. But you have to manage. He said there was how many starters in this race?
70-something starters.
70-something starters, all of which are fresh now, and we're 1.7 of a mile into a race. So even if he's got a big gap, there's 40 minutes left in this race. You have to account for the fact that 70 people could still chase that down, and you're not going to go anywhere so low for 40 minutes unless you are, unless you're not supposed to be in the Cat 4s at that point. Yeah,
I don't see a shadow, but he's doing kind of weird. Okay, here's the thing. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He's got a gap. I didn't see a shadow in that last shot over his shoulder, so let's say he's got a gap, but he's doing weird. So now he's doing less than 200 watts. He went up that hill, he did like 900 watts. Bryan, what's the key to a successful breakaway?
Yeah.
Smooth effort or really surgy, weird effort and bad cornering?
You have to account for the entirety of the effort. So you cannot go ballistic and then back off. And it looks like a couple of riders went with him, but then he doesn't stay on the wheel. Oh, okay, so the pack has caught him at this point. And now he's like, okay, let me rest. Let me go back. Let me see what damage I did. Which, to be honest, is probably, again, not too much.
And let me say, if you're going to pull off the front and there's a big left-hand sweeping turn coming up, pull off to the left. That way you get the inside line for free.
Yeah.
He pulled off to the right, and now he just lost a bunch of wheels, even though he's having to push watts.
Yeah.
That was kind of weird. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't see that in the P12 field either. I would have pulled off to the left right there.
Yeah, I make a point to try and get in the way if I'm falling backwards.
That helps too, yeah.
My big old booty does that for me anyway, but...
And don't like physically block people. That's not what Bryan means by get in the way, but just you take the better line, the faster, quicker inside line.
I kind of like to think of it like, I just did you guys a favor by pulling on the front, so why don't you do me a favor by giving me the sweet spot back into the group.
You're kind of entitled that. When you're on the front of the race, hey, it's on your turn. You take the better line. You take the faster corners. And here goes another break. And it looks like he's pretty motivated to get up there because he's back into this guy's wheel, who hopefully this guy will give him a free ride. Weird line. I like the line the guy in front of him took better.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't hurt to talk about kind of the safety of the group. So you may have an optimum line. Okay, you may have this line choice that you believe is best, but collectively for the group, for the safety of a group, you kind of need to be doing what the person in front of you is doing. So if 3 people are going into the same corner with 3 different lines, even one of those people might be right, but there's a good chance that somebody's going to get hurt in the process.
Yeah. Especially, this is a kind of fun-looking course, a little technical section right there with the hill.
Yeah.
How would you approach that? Say you're trying to get away. Where would you go on a course like this?
Yeah.
We don't know anything about the wind, but
it's hard to tell with the wind. Again, I don't perform in the cold, so I probably wouldn't attack. But no, if I was to attack, I would probably be going. I would be going ahead of the technical stuff.
Yeah, get a gap, and then you can take a perfect line through that technical section.
Right. The other place I would go is probably actually on this stretch. So to me, this looks like falls flat downhill. And people have a tendency on the downhill to kind of say, okay, well, it's smooth, it's not as hard. Maybe they're coasting into this corner. You could see a shadow. He was coasting there. And then everyone's kind of settling up and pushing hard up the hill. I try not to attack through finish lines. People get really excited.
Oh, because the bell is going and the
bells,
fans are
people
there.
are there. Yeah, the announcer calls out your name. So even if there's a guy at the back of the pack who doesn't know who's attacking, but they hear your name or your team or somebody being attacked, everybody knows what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I like to lay low as much as possible.
And that downhill attack, I'll just piggyback on what you said. So if I see somebody attack, say Bryan, I'm in the group and I see Bryan attack on that downhill section. What I'm thinking is if I'm gonna try to chase Bryan back, and it's a false flat downhill, I'm gonna be doing say 400 watts. Well, it's Bryan, so 500 watts. And everyone behind me, if it's a false flat downhill, they're gonna be like coasting or like 200 watts. So I am not gonna be motivated to chase Bryan down. Now I might try to like bridge across to him or something, but it's a good place to attack. So yeah, that's a good call. The false flat downhill, often overlooked, is a good place to start an attack. But here's the technical section.
Yeah, so there's two factors, right? So you need to go when people cannot follow you, or when you're not when they don't feel you're a threat.
Yeah.
So in a technical section, somebody cannot follow you because in this case, by the way, did you notice how all three of them took a different line through that corner?
Yeah.
So
if they were side by side, that would have been a problem.
Yeah, important to follow the wheel in front of you if and when possible. But what I was going to say is in the technical section, you cannot move up. You are stuck where you're stuck. Lamb Park's a great example of that you did. You showed how you come around the corners there and you could be fifth wheel through these tight little sections when the pack gets skinny, and it doesn't matter how hard you want to go. There's no room to move up. And so you attack if I'm trying to attack you, I want to ensure that you're farther back in the group and cannot respond if I wanted to. Or you need to go when people think, okay, it's not possible to go right here, like a downhill, or when it's after a really hard effort when somebody says, I hope nobody else attacks because they're not strong enough, right? So it's part psychology and part physiology. So the physiology being attacking after it's hard, and also layering in the fact that somebody else doesn't want to follow. Like, I pretty much always ask myself, if somebody was to attack right now, like, how would I respond to that? And if I go, I hope nobody attacks, I pretty much attack. That's when I attack.
I know. I remember I learned that in the early birds. I remember somebody told me, it stuck with me. Early birds, by the way, is a training series of races, and I started as a Cat 5 in the early birds. And one of the mentors told me, hey, if you're really tired, that's the best time to attack, because that probably means everyone else is really tired.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of beginner cyclists, beginner racers are like, I don't feel fresh, so I'm not going to attack.
They attack when they feel good, because there's confidence that comes when you attack, right?
Everyone else feels good, though, so it'll chase you down.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have to think about, okay, if I feel good enough to attack, is probably the sweet spot for somebody who's new. Like, you don't want to tell them to go and blow themselves up because they don't necessarily know how to recover yet. They may not be able to get back in the draft, and they may not temper their effort accordingly. But if you say, okay, I don't feel super fresh, but I can recognize the threat I would cause right now, then you should go for it. I mean, and I think having purpose is fundamental for a breakaway working. Like, you can't just wait for it to come to you.
Yeah.
I think you need to recognize, okay, why am I doing this? And if you don't have a reason, you should probably stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah, always have a reason. When you're in a race, always be thinking, I'm doing this, there's a purpose behind whatever action you're taking. If you're sitting in, there's a reason for it. If you're attacking, there's a reason for it. If you're anything. And knowing your limitations, you mentioned it a second ago, but I want to elaborate on that too. Like, that's a skill that people don't talk about. Like knowing what you're capable of. So if you just went really hard in a break, somebody chased you back, and you think, hey, this is a good time to attack because everyone's tired, like we discussed. Well, knowing what you're capable of. So if you think this is a good time to attack, and you push 1,000 watts for 5 seconds, and then you can't even push 200 watts.
And on key,
yeah,
what we have right here.
So
we got an attack.
Yeah. So I don't know if this. Let's see. So this is a big effort. He's probably got separation. I'm not sure. It's safe to assume he's got separation. He just did a hard effort. I believe there were two riders up the road still, so he wants a piece of that. That looks pretty threatening. Yeah, there's 2 riders. I can just see them in the distance now.
4 seconds, 5 seconds.
Yep.
came in a little shallow to that corner. I would have used all of that road.
He could have pedaled through that corner. I saw, and again, right here, 66 watts. Okay, keep your efforts smooth. Like 30 seconds at 300 watts is way, way, way more efficient than than like 10 seconds at 1,000 watts, and then 20 seconds at like a 200 watts.
Right.
Way more efficient.
Right.
So he is charging up this hill.
Yeah, he stands up there. You see his shadow. He's pushing hard up there. It's hard to tell how steep it is.
It is a little hill, but let's see if he's measured this right. That actually didn't look too bad. He went up to like 600-700. You do want to go a little harder on the hill, just because you don't have to push through as much wind. But
now, so to me, this is the point when he has an opportunity. So you go up a hill. You've just gone really hard, and you're on this false flat kind of downhill. This is when you either go across or you get stuck in no man's land. And he does a nice job going across, but this is the point when I would say, like, arrow trumps everything. So you're going up the hill, it's all power.
Yeah, over 30 miles an hour.
Over the top, you're going 31 miles an hour. You don't have to put out that much power. You just stay as low as possible.
And he just came around that corner again. Bad line. His watts went down to 0. Consistency is king, you guys. But it looks like he's made contact here, which is nice.
He's doing 400 watts. Now he's doing 300. He got in the draft here. Now, this is...
Would you let them know you're there?
I would check myself first. I would look back and I would say, like, if the pack is chasing and they're right there, I would not let them know, because I would think somebody else is going to come around.
Yeah. So Red, the guy on the front, Red just looked back, noticed he was there, keeps driving the pace. And if our guy here is doing over 300 watts behind a draft, the guy on the front's driving pretty hard.
Yeah, and this is uphill too, so they're all pushing pretty equally hard here. But yeah, they're all checking over their shoulders, and I think that the fact that he kept pushing means he recognizes the opportunity that they have right now.
Yeah, Red's racing to make this break work.
And our guy who sent us this video...
he's eating wind. I don't know what he's doing.
Our guy who sent us this video said, okay, I want to get in a break. I want to push a break. But sometimes that means you have to be the one to push it. You can't just jump across and get a free ride. So
he's not keeping it tight. See this gap opening up? He's not keeping... Okay, getting a little closer. This guy maybe is tired. I don't know. This needs to be cohesive. All three guys in this group right here, assuming that they have a gap, I think they do. All three of these guys have invested. Let's talk about the matchbook analogy. Oh, now he's doing less than 200 watts. Matchbook analogy, real fast. You got 10 matches in your book of matches, and they all just used 8. So at this point, you're kind of committed to this move. That was such a hard effort. I was looking at the watts. That was a hard effort to get across. He's kind of committed. This is kind of his race now. Because look, if the field catches you, you're not going to have much left over for a sprint. And now he's like refusing to pull through, or maybe he's just too tired to pull through. But if you've come this far, you haven't really measured your effort right, and now it looks like they're caught. So kind of a big failure the way I see it. If this happened to me, I'd be kicking myself for, hey, I had this opportunity, I didn't pull through. You got to commit to the break. It's not just getting across and then I'm going to sit on. The break's going to fail. Bryan? Right.
Yeah, you have to be the foundation. If you want the break to work, you have to be the foundation for the break working to begin with. So that would have been taking the initiative to pull through right away when they came out of that little technical hill.
Yeah.
When they dropped down to 200 watts. Sometimes people think they're caught. They think that they're on the cusp of being caught, and they actually ease up. I've stayed away with a gap of like 2 seconds.
Oh
before.
Yeah. They're tired, but they're tired behind you too.
Yeah, exactly. So oftentimes people, they don't value the distance that they have. So looking back, and even if it's 2 seconds, that's 2 seconds that they're having to push harder to catch up to you. So you might as well get something out of it.
Yeah. And don't half commit. If you're going for a break, go for a break.
Was it Ron Swanson who said, "Don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing"?
I don't know. That sounds good though. You can live by that one.
Yeah, I definitely live by
So
that.
he should have whole-assed that breakaway because he got up to it and then he sat up and then they got caught. It was weird. You guys, those 3 riders may as well have all been wearing the same jersey, right? Everyone has a common interest when you're in the breakaway. Fight it out later when you guys have established a gap and the race is among you 3. But until then, you don't. Yeah. You don't fight like that, and you don't skip poles because you're just hurting yourself.
Yeah, and then now you can see everybody. The pace has dropped considerably. When he was bridging to that break, he was going over 30 miles an hour here, and that means in order for them to chase, they were all going 30 miles an hour. And now we're doing 23, 24, right? And that screams to me that people were tired from that effort as well. So he did damage. He definitely did damage. He did damage to the group behind.
But who knows, if he stuck with it, maybe they would have given up.
They could have given up. He could have pulled another 30 seconds, and they would have said, I need a break. I need a breather.
The funny thing happens in the field, like, people will chase, and maybe it'll be like 3 protagonists who are actually like doing the work back in the field to chase the break, and then like once like 2 or 3 hard efforts stop, and there's no more impetus to chase, it's like you can turn a 5-second gap, like Bryan was saying, even a 2-second gap, into like a 15-20-second gap, like within a half a lap. It just happens all of a sudden.
Yeah. It's really about evaluating your competition, evaluating your own efforts and their efforts as well, and also looking at kind of the range and the distance you have to go. I pretty much separate my races into segments. I segment out. I don't know, do you do this as well? Segment out your race and kind of say, like, if a long breakaway goes, it's going to go in this section and this distance at this time. And then in this middle kind of 20-minute mark, in this case, it's a 40-minute race. So I would say he's coming on 16, 17 minutes now. I would say this is the most dangerous place for a few guys to break away. The first 20 minutes is kind of the rule of thumb that I was taught also in the early bird days, back in 2003, 2004, I think is when I first started racing.
Shout out to Larry Nolan.
Larry Nolan's still out there to this day, riding around Fremont. But he kind of always said the first 20 minutes, everybody's good. Yeah. Middle 20 minutes, that's when people start hurting.
It's dangerous, as they say, the elastic can snap, and that's true in a 4-5 race, same as it's true in a P1-2 race.
Yeah, I mean, the only difference I think between our racing and this racing is the total duration. The same, dips and flows and styles of racing happen in every category. I was racing in Redlands on just the other day, and the same thing happened. Everybody's attacking the first 15 minutes. It was the hardest first 15 minutes of any race, and then there's this like dip. Everybody kind of slows down, takes it easy. A couple guys take long-range flyers, and they stay out there for a while, actually. But then it all kind of comes back together, and there's a group sprint later. But there's these.
That's a pro race. That's like a real pro race.
That's real pros.
So you have like what, teams of 8 riders? What's the limit out there?
There was.
So you have teams that like with radios, and they like chase this stuff back. It's a little bit different than this style of racing, but the fundamentals still apply.
Yeah, exactly. So. And he did say he has a teammate. Unfortunately, we don't know the jersey. Any one of or all of these could be his teammate. So we don't.
But he's been sitting in now. That effort hurt him.
Yeah, I
saw his heart rate get up close to 190 on that effort. It was in the 180s for sure. And it's still 173. So he's still sucking wind from that effort, and he's been surfing wheels since then. So I think that was his shot for the breakaway. I don't know if he's going to get another opportunity like that because now it seems like he's kind of suffering just sitting in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's talk about, like, you've just done an effort. You've just done a big effort. You tried to go in the break. You tried to bridge something. You did something for yourself or for a teammate. It could be for either reason. And you're saying you need to recover. What are the things you're doing to help yourself recover in this moment?
Oh, well, I would sit in the field. Make sure that you have your course knowledge is huge. So taking on a technical section like this, you're taking smooth lines. You shouldn't be touching the brakes. You could tail gun too. That's not really my style, but if you're committed to not really being a protagonist in the race up towards the front, by all means tail gun. And if you guys don't know what tail gunning is, let a gap open up into like a technical corner. And then you don't have to touch the brakes like everyone else is touching the brakes. You can carry speed up into the foot of that hill. Actually, one of the races I do that at is Cat's Hill.
Yeah.
This is a local race that has a hill, which is really steep. It's only like a block and a half long or so, but it's like 20% or something. It's crazy steep. And if you carry a lot of speed, I see people like braking into the bottom of that hill. It just drives me crazy. So tail gunning is a good way to save energy. Another one is just like have the lines picked out. This looks like a much better line. He's not really getting a good draft, but at least he took the inside line through there.
Yeah, but he's still doing 600, 500 watts out of the exit.
And that might just be because people are drilling it on the front. Which means, by the way, if you're in somebody's draft and you're doing 600 watts, that means somebody in front of you is doing even more.
But one thing is reading what is happening. So yes, they are drilling it at the front, right? But you need to recognize
he's just like out in the wind.
He just went straight out into the wind.
Weird.
So the question is, and he's not going to the front. He's not going to the attack, at least that we know of right now. But he did just do a 600 watt pull out of the corner when maybe he could have done 500, lost a few places, and probably ended up in the exact same position.
There goes a pretty good looking attack. That looked like a P12 attack.
That was a slingshot.
Notice how the guy, yeah, that's the Bryan special. I've talked about it in my Alviso videos. You come back from 15th wheel or something, you carry speed, and our guy here with the camera, I mean, if he said that priority number one is getting the break. Well, he couldn't respond to that move because it came blowing past him. He was up a little bit too close to the front, and the attack just came past him with 5 extra miles an hour.
Yeah, and I actually think the reason that was even a bigger threat, so I don't advise attacking if it's easy before that point, but like we said, they were going hard out of that corner just prior to that guy doing a slingshot attack.
That's a good time to go.
So they all went just hard out of that corner. They're taking a quick second breather, and he just used all of the momentum that he had from the draft and slingshot himself over the top.
Isn't that crazy? It looked like he was doing like 1,200 watts, like a full sprint.
Probably,
but if he timed it right, like, I mean, you know, I don't have to tell you, but like for the listeners, you can do something that looks just like that and be doing like 450 watts because everyone has just pulled the plug at the front, and it looks really impressive, but that's why positioning is so important and just getting that slingshot timing down to perfection.
Yeah, I mean, my max power is like 1,200 watts, and I'm a big dude.
You can't hold it for like 2 minutes though.
I can hold like 900 for like a minute, but no, my max power is 1,200. And a lot of times it looks like this big, freakishly strong attack. Like I've seen some of your videos when you cover moves, you can jump into 1,200 very quickly, right?
For 2 seconds at a time, though.
But I'm saying you can do it, and when you watch these videos, it looks like, and it can be intimidating to think that somebody just did a 1,200 watt sprint. How am I supposed to be able to cover somebody who can still do 1,200 watts at this hard point of this race, right? But it could just be the timing. It could just be that they were using momentum, that they were using the draft of their riders, and maybe he's just as tired as you are. That he's not fresh. He may not be fresh, right?
He just closed down his split. I didn't really pay attention to how that happened, but that looked painful. That's all I know. I don't know if he got caught behind the wrong end of something, but that's one of the dangers. Like I said, if you're tail gunning or if you're just sitting mid pack, kind of saving energy, you run the risk of getting caught behind a split. And on a technical course, especially if it's windy, that's a big risk.
Yeah.
This last video that we made, Bariani, I mean, we started with what, 60? I don't even know, 50, 60 riders?
Yeah,
something like that.
20 finished, I think.
What's that?
I think 20 finished.
20 finished. And we were in the second. We were probably in what would you consider the field, right? We were probably the biggest group on the road, and there were like 7 of us. And then the group in front of us was the biggest, 8. And then ours was 7, and I think there was all 1s and 2s after that.
Yeah.
So that wasn't because it was like some big attack. It's just like riders getting shed, splits happening. And you got to pay attention to what's going on and critical moments on the course. Coming back to what you were saying, like knowing the course is huge.
Yeah, and I think using your energy, like when you're going into the wind. So this guy just went into the wind. He's still pedaling.
Losing spots.
Yeah, losing spots. But I don't actually get too nervous about losing a few spots if I'm confident that the pace is going to slow and I can take up a lot of spots. So I have a tendency, and speak for yourself as well, but I take kind of the typewriter approach to losing spots. So I'll lose a handful, I'll lose a handful, I'll lose a handful, and then with one fair swoop, I just whoop straight to the front, right? Other people have a tendency to say, okay, I want to like always pick off 1 or 2 wheels. And the slippery slope of like always trying to pick off 1 or 2 wheels is you're kind of in this rider's position. You're kind of always offset. You're always ready to like kind of push in like a little bit of wind. And you're not really going anywhere, right? And each one of those little moves takes a lot out of you over the course of time. So how do you do it?
Well, certainly there's moments in a race to make up a bunch of spots. And there's always a spot on a course. You know, what comes to mind is Land Park is a good example, but even better, I talked about it in the I think it was the Niles Crit from Chicago. I talked about understanding the course, knowing certain areas on the course where, for whatever reason, the pack opens up a good line. Maybe you can get the downwind section, a really solid line where you put in an extra 50 watts on the field, but you make up 15 spots. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can find places on the course where that's the moment to move up, because sure, you can move up 15 places on anywhere on the course, but if you don't choose the smart place to move up, you're burning a lot of matches to make up 15 spots.
So where are the moments that on this course where you would do that?
Oh god, I haven't been paying close enough attention. You know, this false flat downhill would probably be a good spot because especially towards the bottom of it.
Yep.
If they open up the inside, you're carrying a lot of speed for
Right.
free in people's draft.
Right here.
Right here. This is the moment.
Like, he just has to push. He's doing 0 watts.
0 watts. Push 200 and then take this inside right here. Boom. I would at least get on this guy blue and green, whatever that is up there. You can at least move up like 2 spots for free right there.
Oh yeah, that would.
And it's the inside, right? On the left, right there. Yellow, this guy in the front of him, yellow shouldn't be. Okay, so he's taking the inside. But he saved it. Okay, so he did a 600 watt spike. Instead, he could have pushed 200 or 300 watts for another 3 seconds and moved up a lot. And now he's choosing the wrong spot to move up.
And now he's pushing 400 watts to move up probably the same amount of places as he would have otherwise. And he's in the wind, still pushing 300 on an uphill.
Yeah. Bad idea right here.
Yeah, so he backloaded that effort. So I kind of say that it's like front-loading your effort versus backloading. So he could have front-loaded it by moving up before the turn. Instead, he moved up after the turn when everybody's going hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not often the hard part of the course is not often the place to move up.
No, yeah, I pretty much never move up on a hill or in crosswinds.
I move back on a hill, right?
Yeah,
Sag climbing. Hey, I talked about that in that the bump circuit race. Sag climbing is legit for bigger riders especially.
Yeah,
no offense, Bryan.
No, it's survived. It's gotten me through a lot of races, including Cat's Hill, right?
Yeah. Oh, you've had success there too.
Yeah. I mean, in Cat's Hill, pretty much that year when I did that, I was sag climbing every time.
Yeah. So sag climbing, just the super quick 10-second description is: you get to the front at the base of the climb, and then you race up the climb at a manageable effort, and you end up towards the back of the field.
Yep.
And you're taking yourself out of any potential breakaway or split or anything like that. But I'm speaking for myself. Like I am not going to be lighting up a race on a climb anyway. I'm not a climber, so I'm just trying to maintain contact and not absolutely redline myself in the process.
Right. It looks like
he's going for it again.
All right, now, so a gap open over the top there, and he got stuck behind some wheels and decided, again, a good call to do it on the downhill versus giving everybody a free ride. I don't see any shadows behind him, so it looks like he might have gone a little bit of a gap.
He had a decent line through there. He could have pedaled through it, I'm sure, but that was a better line.
I would have pulled wider on the exit, to be honest.
That way you can keep pedaling.
Yeah, if you straighten out the exit line, you can pedal like a second or two earlier, and smooth out that spike that you would have otherwise had.
The big counter. So you get that guy in his wheel probably. So he's responding. This is the worst position ever, right? So once you start on this, so now if he decides to chase this one back, the counter's going to go again. At least that's what I would do in the P12s, right? So now he's just keeps responding to attacks instead of initiating. And you guys have probably seen my Alviso videos. I don't go on the attack because I think I'm going to ride away into the sunset solo. I just do it just to prevent people. To prevent being in this position where I am responding to attacks constantly, because it becomes rhythmic where you chase, the counter goes. You chase that one, the counter goes, and you'll just ride yourself into the ground eventually.
Yeah, and I think, and if you know how to manage your own, abilities, like we talked about earlier, you could potentially, it could be easier off the front, to be honest. For me, it's easier
on
off the front.
On a technical course, especially like this one.
Yeah.
Yep. Because you keep it smooth. You have the first choice through every corner. You can stay. It's not surgy.
Yeah, I mean these 600 watt spikes up these little hills and out of the corners. I mean that's what kills me. I can pick my line. I can keep it at 350, 400, and just be smooth and stay as low and arrow as possible. And that is easier for me than being in the draft.
So he's doing 600 and then 0. And coming back to what I was saying earlier, that is way less efficient than just doing 300 across the board.
Right. So, front loading your effort, getting off the front sometimes is the best option, which this guy he's admittedly said he's not sitting in for the sprint. He is trying to get in the breakaway. So being proactive to that breakaway is the best way to get into that breakaway. The other thing that also can happen is if you get off the front, let's say you go when nobody else wants to go and they let you get away, and there's a flurry of attacks to get across to you, and they're all doing 600 watts to get across to you.
That's win.
That's like all of a sudden you look back and they're so much deeper in the hole than you are, and even though you've been off the front, they're all gassed, which means you could literally, as soon as they catch you, attack again, and they won't be able to respond.
Yeah, that's why instead of reacting, staying on top of it and initiating the attacks is the way to go. What's this guy doing on the course? That's like an official.
That's scary.
I know.
That's scary. I noticed all these little cones.
Hey, he's going for it again, though.
These little cones scare me.
I know.
People freak out over little cones. I freak out over
dots.
little cones.
Dots. Maybe that's just a California racer thing.
Do they have bot dots there? I don't see any bot dots.
The little dots that separate lanes.
New York. Do you got bot dots over there? I don't see any bot dots.
Comment below. Where are the dots in the?
There's no dots.
We have these dots, and like Modesto, it's like there's so many dots, and they're just like those like bumpy things that you can just roll over it on a road bike. It's not a big deal, but Cat 4, Cat 5 racers absolutely hate them, and I've seen crashes as a result of these little dots, which you could just ride over all day. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
This looks like he's going for it again. Not a fan. Oh, he's checking over his shoulder. Yeah, I think he's
700 watts, 600 watts, but he went into that corner so tight.
Yeah, for no reason.
Could carry some more speed there.
Yeah. Yeah, you should be a little bit more efficient through here. And like I was talking to my teammate about the Bryan road race. The first group on the road, the group up the road, they it was probably much easier, even though they were off the front most of the day. It was probably much easier in that group because they weren't all fighting each other in the crosswinds, making it hard on me like Bryan and his teammates were doing. They were across the road, they were giving each other a draft, and they were a very calculated, consistent effort for like 90 of the 100 miles.
Yeah, I've survived like hilly races and hilly road races before for that exact reason, or if there's a climb towards the end of a race, and I know I'm not going to be able to get over that climb with a climber, I want to get a head start.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's going in a breakaway, sometimes that's being solo, and just getting a head start on it. I've used that to my advantage plenty of times, and it's still really hard for me. It's just that I have a head start, and I have a minute to lose. I have a minute head start, so that when the climbers come out to play, or in the case of like Bryan, when the crosswinds happen, you have some wiggle room, and I think you
got to take advantage of those situations. Like if you're not a climber, don't let it come down to a climb. It sounds obvious, but like I see this all the time, especially in the 4.5s. I made it through in one season up to Cat 2 just because I'm a sprinter, and everyone thought they were a sprinter for whatever reason, and I would just sit in, and people would just drag me to the finish, and then I'd out-sprint everybody. It was awesome. And then I became a 2, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, that shit stops. Like, I'm not going to drag Jeff anymore to the finish, and the racing gets a little bit more strategic. But if you're not a sprinter, don't let it come down to a sprint. If you're not a climber, don't let it come down to a climb. And I'm the same as Bryan. I'm not a good climber, so I'm not going to let it come down to a climb. And when I went out to Berkeley this last year, I did whatever I could. Berkeley is big hilly road race around here. I told my teammates, hey, the best thing I could do for you guys is either join or chase down those early breakaways, because I'm not going to be there on the last lap to help to lead you into the bottom of the last climb, because we've already done 8,000 feet of climbing, 10,000 feet of climbing before that, and I'm going to be dropped by then, along with 80% of the field. So knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, huge part of success in this sport.
Yeah, and I think knowing that your weaknesses can help define your strengths also. So I started when I was 13 years old. 12 years old when I did my first race. And I'm not actually that old. I'm actually younger than you are. So I've been racing for when was your first season?
My first season is when I was
what year?
Okay, wait, let me think. 2009.
Okay.
2009 was my first season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I did 2002 or 2003. So a few years before you, but I sucked. I couldn't get out of my own way. I was the fat, chubby kid.
2 left feet, as they say.
2 left feet, and didn't know how to do anything. And I got my face kicked in. And I'll tell you what, getting my face kicked in taught me more than ever being naturally talented ever does.
I had this discussion the other day with the Trainer Road guys. Having crazy natural ability almost hinders you in this sport. It's counterintuitive because sure, you might be best at a hill climb. How many races on the calendar are hill climbs? 2 that nobody cares about, Cool, go do hill climb road races, But that's not what bike racing's about. If you don't have that crazy gift, I've done 10 years of training to try to get better aerobically, and I ran before I was a cyclist, so I have some aerobic prowess, but I am by no means one of these gifted guys who has a 5 watt per kilo FTP. And what that forces you to do, that was a sketchy line. We're just talking, and all of a sudden we both saw that. Yeah, that was gnarly. I would stay so far away from that guy, though. It forces you to race smart, because you can't you can't afford to make mistakes. If you screw up and you let a gap open up, you can't I can't cross a 30-second gap because I screwed up and let it open up. I got to be smart, and I got to identify those situations before they become a problem.
So yeah, people, there's 2 ways to race. You can think with your legs, or you can think with your brain. Oh, here we go. That was good.
This is solid.
Look at it. That was
great.
And
0 watts?
That had to have been glitch. That was how you get to the front.
That was pro, P12. Yeah.
That was a hip sling to the front or something.
That's funny how both of us alerted, high alert on when that guy took that corner, and we just moved up 15 spots at the
perfectly.
0
and I want to
watts.
say this has to be towards the end of the race. This is maybe 2 laps to go, maybe?
Oh, yeah, we're getting close.
So maybe I wouldn't have gone to the front. Just because you're at the front doesn't mean you have to pull through.
And then he starts drilling. He's going for it. Maybe he's got a gap. Oh, never mind. No, he's responding to this. Single rider. What do you think? I don't know about the 4.5s.
Yeah, it's hard to say. So is this 1 lap to go or 2 laps to go? We'll see here. Maybe we can see the lap counters. He was far back in that group.
That was pretty fucking badass move up. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
That was a good call.
Let's see. Can we see how many laps to? Oh, there's a counter. This is legit.
And 1. I think that was 1. I think that was 1.
That's quick.
Yeah. So
we're gonna find out in a second.
So that was good. He got out of the slinky effect. The reason you don't want to be near the back is because of crashes, is because you can't respond to moves, and because of the slinky effect. So if he was to do a sprint right now, he's not sprinting out of these corners. At least he shouldn't be, anyway. He's not.
Second wheel's not bad through this technical section.
Yeah.
Because you can take good lines. You don't want to be, 4 riders wide through here, because then you're using brakes and you're depending on how people are cornering in front of you, which is never good deal in the Cat 4.5 field. He's still just jamming up this hill. Maybe it's steeper than what it looks.
It's really hard to tell.
Yeah.
A lot of the people were standing up.
But it looked like he just jammed up it really hard for the sake of being at the front, which is weird. I wouldn't want to be on the front right now unless I have a teammate behind me that I'm. And to be honest, with this far to go, I would want 5 teammates behind me. If you're doing a lead.
This is when I would attack. This is when I would attack right here.
But not from the front.
Not from the front. No. I would slinky into that corner. I would do kind of what this guy did, where he kind of grinds past him in the front through this corner. I would go take this corner from the outside in.
Yep.
This guy went really shallow.
He's not pedaling.
He had to brake really hard there and then push on the exit.
Maybe not brake, but at least not pedal, which if you're not pedaling in the last lap, you want to be pedaling in the last lap. You want to be on the gas in a draft.
Yeah, and so what happens here is it's an uphill finish. It plateaus a little bit right here, and the speed's 27, 28. Coming to the finish, he comes out.
Gotta go. Oh, see, now he's responding. At least go to the right and get a little bit of draft.
Good power, good power. But they all slingshotted by you.
Yeah.
He could have easily won this.
Yeah. He waited for them to go. Oh man, it was a solid sprint.
That was a great sprint.
Especially for all the work he did in the race. He wasted a lot of energy. I wonder if he crashed a bunch of people out right there.
That was scary.
You might have.
I went full clench, sitting on the couch. I was fully clenched on the couch.
Oh, man. So what do you think? He needed another 100 meters. He could have won that race.
I don't think he needed another 100 meters. I think he needed to go
100 meters before.
early.
Yeah.
I think you just need to take the initiative.
He responded. The guys attacked, or they started their sprint, I should say, and then he started his like half a second too. Well, I mean, probably more than a half a second too late.
If they're coming by you, you've already lost.
It's too late. Yeah.
So I always kind of just say, might as well get the head start.
He was on the front on the last lap. Kind of weird.
He's strong.
Right? Yeah, he's strong for sure. And once he gets it sorted out, he's probably going to be winning these races.
I mean, like I said, his power is more than my power. My best power there.
Yeah.
So, and how many bullets did he use in that last lap?
Well, what's that say about strategy in bike racing? Everyone thinks it's just like strongest man wins. This isn't running, right? It's not strongest man wins.
No, smartest.
Yeah.
Guy uses the least amount of energy or the wisest energy usually wins.
Damn, we just talked for 40 minutes.
That was fun.
All right, guys. If you like this new format, let me know. I enjoyed it. Bryan, we can still be frenemies. We're friends right now. We're enemies on the road, though.
Yeah. No free lines. I'm gonna take you to the curb anytime and any day.
All right, and I'll record it. So look up for the so watch for the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.